What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where in this one, as you can see, we got the light back on. That's good to go. Looks normal in here again. But today we are moving from the offensive side of the ball. We've talked about everything there, going to the defense, right? And we have talked about this defense a good bit through the offseason, talking about the different details of Lou Anarumo's defense, kind of some of the people's role in this defense. And now this is a good opportunity to really go through and talk about everybody, kind of how the rotation is expected to work at this point. So, of course, as we get into this, right, you have your core starters who are going to be DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart on the inside, one of the best tandems, maybe the best tandem of defensive tackles in the NFL, right? Buckner having, and again, PFF, I mean, lovely work here. 81.9 PFF grade for DeForest Buckner. Grover Stewart at 76. Don't really understand how that is. I think he maybe just came off the best year of his career. But we get both of these guys coming back this year and having them on the inside going to be vitally important to what this defense is able to do. Like we kind of already talked about that in an earlier video, talking about the people who are going to be the most important in the defense. Grover Stewart was at the top of that list for me. Ultimately, I think in Lou Anarumo's defense, obviously being able to get interior pressure in the run game is important, but when you have like Grover Stewart, his presence in the middle, being able to push the pocket back to the quarterback, like being able to make the quarterback uncomfortable and try to get off his spot and try to get him to move up, like because we're going to be blitzing at like a 25% clip, right? Somewhere in that range. So, right, if we're sending blitzers, you're making the quarterback move. He's moving right in to the blitz, right? So, Grover Stewart going to be incredibly important in this defense, as he has been throughout his career. Then you also have DeForest Buckner, and he's going to do what he's going to do, right, in the run game, especially rushing the passer from that 3-tech position on the inside. And in this defense, it'll be interesting. I've always wondered with so many of the guys on the defense, like if we were a more aggressive defense, how would some of these guys perform? DeForest Buckner's right near the top of that list. Like how will being more aggressive overall as a defense help him in the middle of that defense on the defensive line? Going to be very interested to watch, see how the season goes for DeForest and how much of an impact can he get to double-digit sacks. Right, that's what I want to see. Somebody's got to get to double-digit sacks. I think we can have multiple guys get to double-digit sacks this season, to be completely honest with you, right? When you look at the defensive ends, Kwity Paye and Laiatu Latu. And, of course, Latu last year didn't get on the field as much as he probably should have, but coming into 2025 and coming into this new defense, I would expect him to get on the field much more, right? And I know I have the numbers for some of the snap percentages somewhere here. Yeah, so last year, DeForest Buckner played 75% of the snaps, Grover Stewart played 68%, and Kwity Paye played 66%. And those are the only three I have. I know Latu was at 51%, I believe it was, 54%, somewhere in that range. Not nearly enough. I understand him being a rookie and that whole thing, but he should have been on the field much more than he was, and I think he'll have the opportunity to do that this year. And in this defense, both of the defensive ends, like again, this is a tack style defense. Both the defensive ends are going to be reading and reacting and attacking. That's their job, right? So Kwity Paye isn't going to be tamed a little bit, right? You're going to let him off the leash. I've been talking about that a lot. You got to let the dogs off the leash on the defense. Well, you're going to let the dog off the leash when it comes to Kwity, right? And he's on his 5th-year option season. Contract year for him. He's got to be able to produce. So what are you going to get from him, right? I think his development's been good, but again, in the defense and what he was asked to do in Gus Bradley's defense, he was so important to the run game that I think that hindered the effect you could get from him as a pass rusher. which is really what a defensive end wants to do. So I think giving Quiddy the opportunity to really be able to affect the game as a pass rusher could be really good for him and really good for the defense. But then on the other end, Latu is a special talent. Just because of what happened last year, I'm not going to sit here and say that, Latu, what is a bust. We shouldn't have taken him with the first pick. We should have taken Jared Verse, right? I think he had like half a sack less than Jared Verse in the regular season. Played much less and had like almost the same amount of pressures, I'm pretty sure, in the regular season. So overall, I think Latu, there's room to grow, and he wants to be great. He wants to be one of the best. So right, and seemingly he puts the work in to be able to get to that point. So I have faith that these guys, the development specifically for Latu is going to continue to get better for him, and he's going to continue to grow. And I think he can have a huge impact. Like the things we were talking about last year and what we hoped we were going to get from him last year. There's definitely everything we talked about, double-digit sacks in his rookie year. Like that was always a long shot because of the defense, because he's a rookie. But this year, new defense, he knows a little bit of what to expect, the kind of the speed of the game, and kind of the things he needed to work on and hone in on, right, to be better coming into 2025. So really excited to see like this defensive line. Like even a couple years ago in Gus Bradley's defense, we got 51 sacks in a season, right? Had like 5 guys get 8+ sacks, like in Gus Bradley's defense, right? So ultimately, in this defense, I think this defensive line, I think they're going to be unlocked. I think this defensive line is going to be a massive problem for people, and I don't think people realize it. Like when I've talked about all year last year, all off season on this defense, if you take the leash off the dog and you let them go, and you let these guys run free, great things are going to happen. So we're going to be able to see that this year. The leash is coming off, and they're going to be able to hunt. So really excited to see what the defensive line is able to do, right? We haven't really seen dominant pass rushing here in Indy since Freeney and Mathis, right? So going to be nice to get back to that. Now, of course, you look at the depth, right? What happens behind them, right? The front four, those first four should play a lot. When you look at what Cincinnati did, the front four doesn't change a whole lot. But of course, with the Colts, we've had to build the team. In Gus Bradley's system, we built the team to have depth at the defensive line. So we do have depth, and I do expect that to end up getting used throughout the season, right? You go and draft JTT out of Ohio State, who finally signed his rookie deal, by the way. Second round guys finally starting to sign their rookie deals. But JTT coming in, he had 12.5 sacks at Ohio State in 2024. So with Dio Dingbo leaving, it was good to bring him in. You also have Samson Ebicom coming back. And what's he going to be coming back from his Achilles? I think it's good that you draft JTT. You can kind of let him get more playing time early while you work Samson back in, slowly but surely. But at least in Samson's case, right, he tore his Achilles, what was it, early in training camp last year, I believe. So by the time week 1 rolls around, right, getting through the work that he's going to go through in training camp and getting those reps, by week 1, I feel like he'll be in a good place and be good to go. But nonetheless, having JTT, I think he's a guy who by the end of the year, we could see him continuing to get more playing time. Now, will it be a whole lot? I don't think that'll happen because, again, I think Latu will have a big effect. I think Kwity Paye, right? If anything happens, it'll probably be JTT taking some of Quity's playing time, if anything, in my opinion. And then you get 3 ooses on the defensive line with Grover Stewart, and all of a sudden you have a superhuman defensive line. Let's just be real. Ooses are different, bro. They're literally built different than most humans. So get 3 of them, and then Grover Stewart is unbelievable. Unbelievably strong. So, getting those four together is something that I'm excited to see on the defensive line at some point this season for sure. I think JTT can continue to develop, get better by the end of the year. We're seeing him on the field more. He's having more of an effect. And I think we're in a situation where, Quiddy, if we unlikely, even if we're not doing well, I guess unlikely that we trade him at the deadline to somebody who needs an edge rusher. Maybe they could sign him for, 3 years and, $15 million a year or something. Who knows, right? Would somebody want to do that? I just probably not. So he's probably going to go to free agency. We won't get anything back for Quiddy at the end of the year, but we do have somebody waiting to take over that spot, right? And Samson, if I'm not mistaken, this will be the last season for Samson Ebukham's contract, and we'll see what's he able to do. Of course, he's going to want to try to get on the field and produce at some point so that he can go into free agency and be able to get a contract and continue to play. At least I would assume that's probably the plan. But the depth at defensive end, I do like it. I know we do still have Tyquan Lewis as well. But then when you look at the interior defensive line, of course, that's really the question on the defensive line is that interior depth, right? When you take Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner off the field, then what's coming in behind them? Well, the Colts go out and go out and get a free agent, Neville Gallimore. Right, and getting Neville Gallimore, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know a whole lot about his career, but like in terms of defensive line depth, like guys that can come in and not be like a complete liability, right? Like we've had Taven Bryan come in for years, not great, right? So when you have Neville Gallimore coming in as depth, like that's a move in the right direction, right? But of course, you're going to need more than that, right? So they go out and they draft Tim Smith, defensive tackle, 6th-round pick from Alabama. But this is a guy that, as I looked into him after we drafted him, this is a guy that can have a high impact from the middle of that defense, right? Coming in, right? So the backup defensive rotation would be Tim Smith coming in as a 3-tech, the rusher on the inside. Neville Gallimore, more of your Grover Stewart, plug a hole, try to get interior pressure kind of guy. So Tim Smith is a guy that I think when you're looking towards the future, right? Of course, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, want those guys to retire. Colts, I hope we have enough success that they feel okay staying here for the rest of their careers. But then behind them, whenever those guys do leave, whether it's in free agency or trade at some point, or whether it's retirement, then you have Tim Smith, and I think Tim Smith with being behind Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner, being able to work with them, being able to work with Latu and JTT and Kwity Paye, right? All the experience that he has as a rusher, but he also has as those NFL veteran, really good NFL veteran interior defensive linemen that can kind of do it all. Like the things he's going to be able to pick up and learn that can help us win in the future is going to be great. So, 2 draft picks on the defensive line, and I really like both of them. JTT, Tim Smith, I think those are guys that can actually have an effect for this team in the future. Not just flapping my gums with Tim Smith, man. I looked into him. I like him. Like a player, I think part of that is bias for me. If Nick Saban picks you, there's probably a reason. There's a reason so many Alabama guys make it to the NFL. There's a reason so many Alabama guys get big-time second contracts in the NFL, right? Nick Saban, over a period of time, has proven that the guys that he picks will be successful because they are special and because Nick Saban got their hands on them and turned them into professionals, right? Understood what it was going to take for them to get to that point. So at the end of the day, I think Tim Smith again for a 6th-round pick. I think it was a really good pick. He's got to develop. You want him to get bigger. You want him to get stronger, but you want him to be able to keep some of that speed as well. So I think again the guys that he's going to be able to work with going to really help him. Grover Stewart in the weight room and DeForest Buckner on the field specifically. Now, of course, when you're looking at position battles, interior, there's not, of course, not really a battle, but just kind of looking at the rotation there. You have Buckner and Stewart, and like I mentioned, Gallimore, Tommy Ade, and Tim Smith. Those are the guys that are going to be the interior depth and the rotational guys that come in and really need to make an impact. And of course, Tommy Ade, really wouldn't be surprised if he's more of a special teams ace kind of guy this year. And you see Tim Smith start to take some of those rotational roles at some point. Wouldn't be completely surprised about that. Tommy Ade, his development, at least in Gus Bradley's defense, really just hasn't gone the way we thought. Now, Tommy Ade is a physical specimen. So in this particular defense, attack style defense, would actually be interested to see will he have more success in this sort of defense. But whatever the case, we need more consistency out of the interior defensive line, just like we need more consistency out of the edge rushers, right? Again, you have Latu and you have Pay. Those are going to be the guys that are going to more than likely be the starters on the outside at defensive end in this defense. But there are high expectations for JTT, and Ebukam is coming back. Tyquan Lewis is a trusted veteran on this team, somebody that's been around for a while, somebody that's made an impact in different games over time. So with the defensive line, again, there's on paper, when you look at it, it looks like they've done a good job building the depth of this defensive line coming into this year as opposed to years past when there was clear deficiencies. I think they've done a good job getting Gallimore. You have Tommy Ade still on his rookie deal and Tim Smith, right? And then Ebukam coming back is huge for the rotation on the outside. Tyquan Lewis coming back. You draft JTT. Really like what we did on the defensive line and what we're going to be able to provide. So as we go into training camp, right, you're going to be paying attention to edge rotations in 7-on-7. What does that look like? Who's getting in? What is, I guess, practice reps, you're not really going to be able to tell what game-like situations are going to be in terms of rep percentage, but seeing kind of like what packages are we going to put together in those 7-on-7s, and of course in team drills, but really those 7-on-7s, you kind of know what you're getting with those. So what's that going to look like, and what pairings are we going to see get put together in this new defense, right? And the same goes for the secondary, in the same wavelength. But also interior pressure against heavy run sets. We kind of, again, that's why in this defense, Lou Anarumo's defense, Grover Stewart is going to be incredibly important. That point in so much of what we talked about this offseason, most important thing for the offense, Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, figuring it out. Consistent quarterback play means the offense is going to be almost unstoppable. That, our offense is ridiculous on paper. Just got to get a quarterback to do their job. On paper, the defense should slaughter pretty much everybody. We have guys everywhere. And Grover Stewart is probably the most important piece on the entire defense, what he's able to do in the run game to get teams into passing situations so that we make teams predictable. And when you can go into an aggressive defense and make teams predictable in the pass game, you're going to have a lot more success. That's when your edge rushers get to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. That's when the new guys you brought in, and then a guy like Kenny Moore, right? Charvarius Ward, Cam Bynum, Kenny Moore. These guys get to be aggressive on passing downs and know that the quarterback has to get the ball out of their hands quick. So that's an extra incentive. Hey, I need to stay in this receiver's hip pocket. He's not going to have a bunch of time to run. I don't have to worry about a bunch of cuts. I need to stay in his hip pocket, get my hands on the football. And that's going to happen because of Grover Stewart. Everything about the defense traces back to what can Grover Stewart do? How can Grover Stewart change games? He will be the X factor in this defense. Okay, that cannot be overstated. And I'll continue to make that point. Okay. If you take one thing away, just know on the defensive line and on the defense, we're watching Grover Stewart week in and week out. Grover Stewart affects games, we're going to win. If he doesn't, it might be tough. Okay, so this is the defensive line. That's what we are expecting and what we're looking for going into training camp. Training camp starts this week. It is officially time, man. Football is coming back. We're only a few days away, right? We're going to have more content leading up until training camp comes. And then, of course, media day. And, of course, I have a day job. Just please remember, a lot of people that weren't here last season just got to understand, I do have a day job. I won't always be able to get you guys updates immediately, but I will get you guys updates as soon as I possibly can. So if you enjoy the content, make sure to hit the like button and make sure you guys are subscribed with notifications on so you get notified anytime we drop any content on this channel. Of course, I appreciate you so much for stopping by for another video. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.